If you're just now tuning in to the show, to the marathon, I'm also going to make sure I share this so we get it out to more audiences and we can get some awesome people finding out, especially about Joia, who's about to come on and just rock the house. I see Leslie Klatt is out there. What's up, Leslie? Welcome to the house. And if you're out there, make sure to give a thumbs up and a heart. I see Julian is out there as well. I'm going to put a heart out there just in the comments because we're going to have some fun. So Joia is about to come on in just a bit here. Before that, though, let's talk about the sponsorship message. If you are a high achiever, a messenger, purpose-driven entrepreneur, and you want to get your message out to even more people, you've been finding out what's that way for you. If you know what the way is, and the way is podcasting, come talk to me. I can help you launch your podcast. Or if you're not clear on that, come talk to me. I can help you get some clarity. And if it's podcasting, I'm happy to support you with that. Or if you're still figuring out what is your pathway, I'm glad to connect you with these other incredible human beings who come on the 12-hour marathon because they have gifts and abilities and skills that I don't have, and they can serve you potentially at an extremely deep level. So if you're interested, email me, Chris@BeYourGPS. Find me on Facebook, message me there, and I'm happy to support however I can, okay? I'm going to share about the iTunes review of the week now. It's by Nikisha Ware, and Nikisha says, I listened to my first Chris Burns podcast, and I am blown away. He makes it so clear, the power of clarity and exactly what we can do to get it. I'm excited to hear more fire. Thank you so much, Nikisha. And if you want to give us a review for iTunes, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes store, and you can give us a review there and let us know what you love about the show, what you want to see more of, and how we can make it even better for you. Thank you so much in advance, and make sure you subscribe so you can get all the latest updates and episodes and stay plugged in to the greatest possible self message. I'm going to bring on Joia in just a second here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes because it's going to be an epic interview. I can feel it. I can feel the fire. Joia is ready to rock the house. So let's introduce her and then we'll bring her on the screen. Joia Houheneka, and she's going to totally correct me when she comes on how to pronounce it, is a coach, a writer, and speaker based out of the New York City and New Jersey metro area. She is the founder of Creative Achievements Coaching, her signature integration of life coaching and high-performance coaching and creativity coaching designed for individuals striving to reach their full potential and achieve innovative excellence across multiple disciplines and to live a life rich in deep, meaningful happiness. She is also the creator of the 21st Century Renaissance Human Project and a co-host on a soon-to-be-launched podcast, Seeing Eye to Eye. Not eye to eye, but like the letter I to the letter I, like me to me, eye to eye. The show about innovation and integration. Her writing has been featured on Thrive Global and Medium. She also plays at blogging on travel for creative development on her website, www.atravelersmind.com. And we are blessed to have Joia with us here today. Joia, are you ready to rock the house, superstar?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here, Joia. We're going to have a lot of fun today. And let's start off with the theme of the day, which is messages that stick. So, Joia, in your opinion and experience and perspective, what does that mean for you, messages that stick?
Messages that stick are messages that really have to connect with your audience, which means you really have to understand their context, where they're coming from. It's both their knowledge and their values, what it is they actually understand about the world and what they care about at the deepest possible level. Wow. And when you have that, you have a message that can reach someone and will stick.
You're bringing the fire, Joia. I love this. I just hear these powerful words coming from you, these values, and it really does penetrate when you have the awareness, the context. What is this person's world? How do they see things? What's the journey that they're going through? And when you can meet them there and show them a way out, or show them value, show them how to get what they want, then that's truly a powerful way to communicate and connect with people.
Exactly. I think it's so important. You have to know where they are and where they're
Mm,
going. It's
mm.
exactly those two pieces.
So good. So, Joia, we are getting connected with you. And for our audience who is learning about you, who you are and what you stand for, what your clients come to you for, why don't you share a little bit about that with these people who are getting to know the Joia?
Sure, great. So I'm Joia. I'm a coach. I created my own signature coaching program, which I call Creative Achievements Coaching. So
Ooh,
I have a background in life coaching, creativity coaching, and high performance coaching.
that's
So I
awesome.
really bring all of those together to what I offer my clients. And each of my clients is unique. That's part of really what I
Mhm.
look for. I'm looking for clients who want to be creative,
Yeah.
unique, authentic, and as you kind of already talking about in my bio, what I'm really passionate about is
Mhm.
people who have skills across multiple disciplines, multiple skills, talents, passions, but are
Mm.
looking for a way to bring all of that together, create something truly unique, and then actually live up to it. And so
Mm.
that's exactly what I support my clients in doing.
That's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. I just hear you coming alive because you're helping people really be their greatest possible selves, achieve their biggest dreams
Exactly.
and visions and perform and be happy and fulfilled. All that is incredible. So I love it, Joia. Let's go back into the journey. How did you get to where we are today? What was the moment where you started knowing you wanted to coach people, you wanted to serve people, you knew you were meant for more, you wanted to live your purpose? Tell us where that all began.
Honestly, it's been quite a long journey. It started, I was always a writer and into the arts as well. I've loved
Mm.
singing too.
Ooh,
And but writing was my first passion. And
okay.
so I started off in English. I thought I was going to be an English teacher. I went to grad school to be able to teach English at a college level, got some experience doing that, and then
Mhm.
realized I did not want a job in academia.
Wow.
That was just my major breakdown moment because I was one of those people, always the high achieving type. If I
Yeah.
set a goal for myself, then it was
Yeah.
like I was going to go off and do that. And I was right on that track. And it's the standard track, I think, that most of us here in the US we follow. We go to high school, we go to college, we go to grad school, and then when you're in the track I was in, it was grad school to a job as a professor. That was the standard thing that everybody does. And that's what I was going to do. And I was going at it full speed. I was at NYU, top program, really doing well. But then just reached this moment where I realized this is not what I want to be doing.
Mm,
And
wow.
I had never quit at anything before in my life. Even that was so difficult to make the decision, like, I'm going to quit this.
Wow.
But it turned out to be the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
So I quit the college professor track. And I had a background in yoga, meditation. So I took some of my teaching skills, got into teaching yoga, meditation, Pilates. And from that, discovered coaching. And when I
Mm.
found coaching, it was like, where has this been my whole life? I think I even realized that some of my best moments in academia
Uh-huh.
were when I was working one on one with someone, and what I was doing was coaching them. I
Mm.
just didn't have that word, didn't have that framework. So once I discovered it, it was like my whole world came to life.
Wow. That's so incredible. So you were passionate about this path of teaching.
Mhm.
What did you see that you didn't see being able to be fulfilled through the traditional route? Like what was the value that you saw that nope, this isn't the pathway to get this value fulfilled. I want to go this other way.
Exactly. So when I was in teaching, it was precisely to connect with other people who
Mm.
had a creative vision, a creative
Mm.
dream, a creative goal. And I wanted to work with those people to help
Yeah.
support them, to help them with the skills that they would need.
Mhm.
But in the typical teaching environment, so
Mm.
one problem was just that you had a standard curriculum that you had to
Mm.
fulfill, whether that actually fit with the specific individual and what it was that they were trying to do. So
Mm.
there was often a mismatch between what my students' goals and desires were and
Yeah.
the program that we had to offer as
Mm.
part of what was required. So finding coaching was just so powerful because coaching flips all that. You're not the teacher who shows up with a lesson to present. You show up with presence,
Yeah.
and the students bring forth what it is they're working on,
Mm.
what it is they need help with. and you use that as your starting point, and then from there can really help them to grow and help them to become something unique and individual, and not just check off the box of
Mm.
I got this degree.
Yeah. This is so good because it's when you have that presence and you're really there with your full heart, like that's what it's about. It's like really connecting with people. What do you really care about? What do you really need? What are your biggest dreams and goals and desires? That's presence, like really hearing people out.
Exactly.
And that's missing when people just say, here's the standard box that all these students go through and standard, cookie cutter. It's like, no, that's not what people need, especially creatives and visionaries and leaders and influencers. They need custom curriculum.
Precisely, because when you want to be a creator, there is no cookie cutter route.
No.
The whole point is that you're creating something that is authentic and unique to you. And that's what I love, because I
Mm.
truly believe that every human being is unique and individual. And what we ought to be doing is finding out how to express and live that
Yeah.
unique potential that we each all have.
Wow. So beautiful. So at some point you said coaching is the route for me, getting into the yoga world, right? And experiencing personal development and the possibilities there. How did you decide coaching is that right path for me? When did you get that realization, and how did you know that it was the right path for you?
The light bulb moment was really even my first experience working one on one with someone,
Mm.
and just realizing how powerful it was when I did exactly what you were saying, when I showed up truly present, truly heart centered,
Mm.
listening to what it was that they were struggling with,
Mm.
listening to what their dreams were, finding out from when you're doing coaching, a lot of it is asking these deep questions that go past the surface level.
Yeah.
So I find that most people, all of us, we're used to talking about ourselves, and we have the limit of what we were used to saying about ourselves, what we've explored about ourselves. I mean, I
Yep.
think we all introspect to a certain extent, but
Mhm.
everybody has that point where this is the thinking we've done about ourselves and our life, and that's where it's at a certain point.
Mhm.
When a coach comes in,
Mm.
at least when I come in as a coach, my whole motive is to go deeper with you, to
Mm.
go beyond the thinking that you've already done about yourself, your life,
Mm.
who you are, what you want to be, so that we start to explore something new,
Mm.
get down to your deepest fundamental motivations.
Yeah.
And from that, we can start to figure out what is the truly unique path that you as an individual ought to be following.
So, can you take us through an example, or how you worked with someone, or a typical process? I know typical is probably not the best word, but a process to get to someone's like deepest core desires and motivations.
Sure. So it's interesting because ultimately, every time I work with a client,
Hmm.
it becomes its own unique thing,
Right.
precisely because I find every client is different, and I love that.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, I start the same way with
Mm.
every client. And because my focus is creativity, what I've learned is that creativity actually starts in curiosity.
Mm.
So the first thing we work on is curiosity. And
Hmm.
I do believe curiosity is a skill that we need to develop, practice, cultivate.
Yeah.
So I always start with curiosity. And I think about curiosity in three ways. There's curiosity about the world broadly. What is the nature of this universe that we live in?
Yeah.
There's curiosity about other people. Other people are obviously part of the world, but they're such a big part of
Totally.
the world. And
Totally.
and it's true that every person kind of creates their own world or has their own world. I mean, I think we all know this just from the intimate relations we create with others, that every time you encounter a new person, you're entering a new world, their world.
Yep.
So there's curiosity about other people, about their worlds.
Mhm.
And then there's curiosity about yourself, which is
Mm.
sometimes the hardest one,
Mm.
because so many of us, without even realizing it, we've just developed all of these judgments about ourselves that we haven't even thought to question.
Wow.
So, curiosity about yourself. So, curiosity about the universe, the world, curiosity about others,
Mm.
curiosity about yourself. And what I have people do is just start listing curiosities in each of those categories. That's the first step. And then from there, we start to look for patterns. How can we integrate these different curiosities? And of course, this is where it starts to just become incredibly individual and unique for every single person, because everybody's lists are different. And then once we actually start looking for the intersections and the integrations, it just spirals into something that is completely customized for that person. And then we're just on this whole new path of who you are and where you're going to go.
That's so good. And I love that it's about first taking an inventory. What am I noticing? When I'm curious about the world, what am I curious about? What do I notice? What do I see? And it's like based on what we notice, that's what we're paying attention to. Where our focus goes, that energy flows. So seeing the world and paying attention to what comes up, seeing people, what comes up? What do I notice with people? What are the patterns that are important to me? Do I notice about people's money? Do I notice about people's relationships? Do I notice about people's hygiene? Like what is
exactly?
It
yes,
comes up? And so that's really important. And ourselves, I love that because it's really I feel like a lot of people are just comfortable with their awareness of themselves, and it's being curious and questioning, why do I think those things? What do I notice? What are the patterns that we can really start peeling away the layers of kind of complacency, the layers of identity that have been stacked up and they're existing for so long, so that we can peel those away and then rebuild who we want to be. In my opinion, I say I have a vision. Who do I get to be to create that vision and make that a reality? Okay, how do I be that person now and start taking actions in alignment with that?
I totally agree. It's the only way you're going to grow and to become your greatest possible self.
That's
And
right.
I love your mission. It's the mission that I've followed my whole life, and that's exactly what's required. You have to be able to rethink yourself out of whatever complacency you might be in and figure out, how do I grow and how do I reach for that next level?
So, Joia, why creativity coaching versus, let's say, a focus on strategy or logic coaching? Why do you choose creativity?
Creativity has become a particular passion of mine because I truly believe we all are creative. But it's interesting that not everybody identifies themselves as a creator or an innovator. So one of the things I've identified as just one of my huge missions in the world is just to spread this gospel of creativity, to tell people that we all are creative, that it's a skill that we all need to learn, develop, and nurture. And that's what I want to primarily help people do. And I find that when I help people do that, that's precisely what allows them to create a strategy that makes sense for them, that makes sense for their goals, for who they are. So to me, creativity is the fundamental.
Wow, this is gold. And I love how you said we're all creative. And the word that comes to my mind is creator, right? Creativity comes from being the creator. And I believe we're all
creators.
Yes, we're all the creator of our life masterpiece. Like this is a journey. This is a big canvas we get to paint on and create with. What are we going to create? It's so beautiful when we have a analogy and a metaphor for how we relate to life, and it's an empowering one, it's a creative one, it's an expansive, a free one. It's like everyone has their own gift and message to bring to that creation, to that process.
And it's exactly the message that I want to get out in the world. Exactly what you just said, that we all are creators, we all have that potential and possibility, and we all ought to be living into that. So I want every person to be able to identify themselves as a creator. Like, I think, Bill Gates said, his mission was like a computer on every desk. Mine is, a creator in every soul.
Yes. I love it. Joia. I love this. And I want to know, in terms of like living the purpose, you start people with being curious,
Yes.
paying attention to the patterns. And I'm sure when people work with you as a coach, like you're able to help them put those pieces together. Let's say someone's on the journey and they've got a couple of the pieces together. How do they actually live their purpose? Like how do they stay in alignment with that? How do they not get distracted? How do they not go astray and stay on track with that purpose?
No, that's an important point. You're right. So a huge part is even just identifying and becoming explicit about what that purpose is. So many
Mm.
people I find yet don't, they have a vague idea of something they're kind of interested in. But when you first, it's just even identifying and becoming explicit,
Yeah.
stating in words, this is what my purpose is, this is what matters, and knowing why. Because when
Mm.
I work with people too, I really want to go deep into the why. It's really interesting because sometimes I find when I do this work with people that even their initial conception of what their purpose is
Mhm.
starts to expand and develop as we go deep into the why.
Yeah.
But once we've done that work and once you have your sense of your purpose,
Mm.
then it's even just figuring out the productivity and high performance skills
Mm.
that allow you to actually have the energy and the focus to
Yeah.
be able to accomplish this great purpose that you've set out for yourself.
Yeah, because I think a common misconception might be, oh, I get to be creative, I get to be artsy, I get to be flowy, all over the place, all the time, and schedule, who needs that? Performance, ah, come on. But to be a true influencer, a visionary, a high performer, to a Steve Jobs caliber, you really got to perform.
You've really got to have both, I find. You have to have
Yeah.
the creative flow mentality, and
Yep.
then you also have to be able to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
integrating both of those aspects, and that is a huge part of what I work with people on is
Yeah.
how do we keep that vision, keep the creativity going,
Mm.
nurture that creativity, that flow state, and then match that with the productivity skills so that you're
Mm.
actually moving forward, knocking things off the checklist and getting stuff done.
I love it. Where would you say people fall off when they've stepped into their creativity, they've stepped into their purpose? How do they fall short in terms of the performance typically in getting stuff done? What's missing?
I find there's three common things that happen.
Okay.
One is overwhelm, especially with
Mm.
the people I work with who have these passions in multiple areas and skills.
Mhm.
It's easy to get overwhelmed. It's one of the big things I have to work with people on. And the wonderful thing is that when you have all these passions and skills, the truth is there are lots of valid paths that you could
Yeah.
go down. And because you are a creator, there's not just the one standard cookie cutter road that you're going to follow. There
Yeah.
literally are multiple paths that you could legitimately take. So sometimes a huge part is just helping people deal with the overwhelm and focus in on, okay, this is
Mm.
going to be my strategy, this is what I'm going to pursue first, and
Mm.
if it doesn't work out, then we'll pivot in this way and then we'll go this way. Huge part is just dealing with that overwhelm and
Mm.
getting rid of the overwhelm so that we actually have focus on a next step. I like to say that I help people dream bigger than they've
Mhm.
ever dreamed and take tinier steps than they've ever taken. Sometimes
That's
it's
good.
both of those. It's dreaming bigger
That's
and
good.
figuring out the next tiny step.
Wow. No, that's super
Yeah.
good. And I think
Oh,
so many
but
people, I was going to say, so many people get overwhelmed with like how big the goal and the dreams are. And it's like, okay, well, how do you actually make that manageable and doable on a daily basis? I know for me, I've been like the eternal optimist in terms of how big I can dream and what's possible. And then when it
Mhm.
came to performing on a daily basis, I'd like say, oh, I'm going to make 40 sales calls today. It's like, okay, well, if I made 5 yesterday, is that a real, is that a real practical objective
Mhm.
and goal, and
Mhm.
I'd like beat myself up and I'd be super self-critical and hard on myself.
And sometimes it's deciding, was that actually the right goal? Or
Mm.
are you just being too hard on yourself? Like, was
Mm.
that actual good progress? Or
Mm.
were you actually being too hard on yourself?
Yeah.
So that is some of the work. I was just going to say, so I said that there were three things that I
Yep.
typically find, and overwhelm is the first. The second one is burnout. So a
Mm.
lot of the people I work with, they are these high achieving, driven goal getters. They push, push, push. and then they burn out. Some people even find themselves in a kind of vicious cycle of burnout. So what I'm working with them to do is to break free from that cycle. How do we actually come up with a plan, a strategy that's broken down into a daily routine that actually allows you to move forward in a steady way so that you're not just going to reach burnout, crash, and have to start again from point zero. So burnout is the second big one. And the third one is what I find my clients like to call analysis paralysis. So many of my creator clients, they're these visionaries and they're in their heads. They're deep thinkers. They've got the big vision. But sometimes they're so absorbed in the vision and, well, it could go this way. It could go that way. I could do this. I could do that. They're so busy thinking about planning all the possible options that then they never actually take the steps to make progress and move forward. So it's breaking out of that analysis paralysis and actually taking concrete steps on a journey that will actually move you toward your stated goal and purpose.
How do people know if a daily step is too big or too small?
A lot of times it's experimentation. So when I'm working with clients, what we do is we talk about what their big goal is. We try to break that down into certain milestones. Where do you want, if this is the big goal and that's the 25-year goal, dream, where do you want to be in 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, within the next quarter? So we start to break that down. And then as we're getting down to, okay, what's it going to be like this month, this week, this day, then what we're often doing is experimenting, trying this out. How does this go this day, this week? How did this work? Did you come home and have to crash? Did you feel that you had enough energy? So it's coming up with a certain plan to test and then doing the experiment.
Do you find that any of your clients have challenges being creative and stepping into their like genius zone and creativity, or would you say most of them have tapped into that and they're dealing with one of these three challenges of overwhelm, burnout, or analysis paralysis?
Most of them have tapped into creativity, but sometimes the burnout is creative burnout. Sometimes it is that someone has had that creative vision and idea, and the great part is they've gone out and they've achieved it, and now they're like, what's next? So, I mean, that is when we go back to curiosity again, because I find that curiosity really is the wellspring. So we go back to curiosity, and moving forward from curiosity helps them find a new creative path. But usually that fundamental work I do with people on curiosity already helps set them up to be creative. And then it's just learning skills about the creative process. So there is a process, I think, to creativity. It involves going out and finding inspiration from other creative sources. It involves what's often called incubation, where you just kind of let that inspiration sit and rest. And then sometimes there is a eureka moment, but often what has to happen is after you've gone through the incubation, it's asking yourself questions that start getting your thinking moving in new directions. And that's often what can lead to the next creative insight.
Yeah, that's good. How does nature play a role in your experience with creativity?
Oh, I mean, it's a huge part for me. So for me personally, part of my story is I actually lived in New York City for about 15 years. And about a year and a half ago now, I got married, and my husband and we bought a house in New Jersey, and we specifically bought a house that's close to the Jersey Shore. So I always tell people we live about an hour from New York City, but just a mile to the beach. So it's become part of even my daily routine that I love now, that I'm able to walk to the beach and have that experience and to me, the beach is my favorite nature setting. But we also have trails around here too. And I know there really aren't any mountains in New Jersey. If there were mountains, it would be perfect. But at least we have the beach, and I absolutely love the beach. And it's true, just getting out of your comfortable environment, going out into nature, because there's so much to be inspired in nature, the sights, the sounds, the smells, seeing life unfold around you
Mm.
outside of the normal ways that you're thinking about it. For so many people, it helps you both relax and connect in a new
Mm.
way. And it's precisely what you need to help creativity, being in the
Yeah.
relaxed state, and then, as I said, drawing that inspiration and that
Mm.
connection.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like you really get to come back to the awareness of yourself and like what's going on in your own body, and then connect with everything going around, and like be able to connect everything, you know. But I think it first starts with breathing is a really important part to come back into your body, and then
Hmm.
connect with everything. And it's in that place of peace, probably, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that you find most of your clients are able to find their most creative states. Like if you're stressed out and overwhelmed, burning out, analysis paralysis, that's like stress and fear, and that's not good. It's not good for creativity, innovation, leadership, and being your greatest possible self.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's that anecdotal story that most people have their best ideas in the shower. Because I guess if you can't
Mm.
go out into nature, the shower is the next best place where maybe you're going to actually have that physical experience of the water, and
Mm.
exactly what you're saying. You need the relaxation, you need that calming. So, meditation is definitely something I work with my clients on to help them get into a more relaxed state. But for many of my clients, even going out into nature is their form of meditation. Going on
Mm.
a long walk, it's one of the things that I do now that I get to live by the beach. It's perhaps my favorite way of meditating, is just going on a nice long walk on the beach.
So amazing. Joya, where did that name, beautiful, joyous name, where did it come from?
So Joya is actually my chosen name, and
Uh,
I legally changed it several years ago. So I think I told you as part of my story that I was always
mhm,
someone who was in the arts. I always loved to write. I was singing. I did theater. So I grew up around people who chose stage names
mhm,
or pen names. And when I got into yoga, I found in that community so many people choose a spiritual name.
mhm,
And I have to say, I always loved the idea of you choose your own identity. So obviously there's parts of all of us that are genetics or environment that are part of our identity. But to
mhm,
me, the most interesting and critical part of a person is the identity that they choose for themselves. And I always loved the idea that I would choose a name that would reflect my chosen identity. And when I got to the point that I realized, it was actually when I finally got to the point of coming to coaching and personal development, and realizing that what I was really passionate about was happiness. And the
mm,
truth is, I hold it as an open question. I don't think I've learned everything there is to know about happiness by a long shot. But for me, I know that that's my passion. That's the journey I want to be on and pursue for the rest of my life. I want to keep learning about what makes for a happy life for
mm,
me, for others, from the deepest, most fulfilling aspects of life to the everyday little simple pleasures.
mm.
That's core to my identity. And so I chose that name to reflect that path that I had
That's awesome.
identified for myself.
For people to create more joy in their lives, what would you recommend?
To start, even as we've been talking about here, to start with curiosity and
Mm,
creativity, because it's all about finding your authentic self and creating that life that only you can live.
yeah.
And when you can identify a purpose that brings joy to yourself and adds value to the world, when you have that large scale, massive purpose,
Mhm.
that's a key part of living a life that is truly meaningful, as well as truly, uniquely, authentically your own.
Mm, I love it. And I don't know if I mentioned this in our pre-interview call, but my three core values are joy, love, and growth. Like those are my big three. So it's no wonder why we're connecting and vibing and just see this world as such an opportunity to play and be curious about and to expand ourselves as well as helping others do that same thing. Because I think serving others with our wisdom, what we've learned as coaches, like that's love. Sharing our gifts with others, that's love, and helping them grow in the process. And also it's joy. It's so much fun to just be in our gifts and contribute that to people.
Mhm. I have this thing I say where, on the one hand, I truly believe we all are and ought to be lifelong learners, that
Yes.
there's always something new for us to learn
Yeah.
in order to grow. So everybody should be a lifelong learner.
Amen.
But I also simultaneously believe everybody ought to be a teacher, because
Mm.
we've all gone through a journey. We all have wisdom that we've developed on our path
Hmm.
that we can share. So my ideal is this balance of everybody being both a learner and everybody being both a teacher.
Mm. I love how you said learner and not student, because I think there's a connotation. Maybe you do or don't use it in particular, but for me, a student, it's good. You can be a lifelong student, and that puts a connotation that someone else is like better or more advanced than you. And there's nothing right or wrong with that. I just think that it's an interesting choice of learner, because that's growth. That's just, hey, how do I increase my awareness and knowledge and versatility and skillfulness and all that kind of stuff? It's through learning, through experience and wisdom. I also wanted to ask another question. Oh, in terms of your relationship, congratulations on getting married. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And what have you seen in terms of your creativity with having a romantic relationship? What have you noticed along the journey?
And for me, the most fundamental thing is that it's just given me the support that I've needed. So one thing
Mm,
that we haven't talked about yet, but that's definitely part of my coaching program, that one of the key components to living a full creative life
mhm.
is having supportive, close relationships.
Yes.
You need people in your life who will challenge you, inspire you,
Mm,
and support you. And so to find a partner, whatever that is,
mm,
if it's a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a partner, but to have someone who can be your partner, who can be your
mm,
rock.
mm.
I mean, to me, it's just helps my creativity flourish
Yeah.
to have that rock.
Mm. I love it. I love it. I know for me, I have really provided that for my girlfriend. We've been over together for over a year, and
Hmm.
she really sees the greatness in me and like brings out that leader in me. And I do the same for her. And I would say I'm more of the rock, where she can be the flow and be the
Hmm.
feminine. Activate her divine feminine, and I'm the person who she can always depend on and count on to be there, and tell her that everything's going to be okay and all this
Hmm.
kind of stuff, and it's really powerful when you find that person who can who you trust, who you can share these life experiences with and just flourish with. It's really beautiful.
And it's part of the meaning of life.
Yeah.
I love the phrase from Jacob Bronowski, who was this
Mm.
20th century polymath. He has this line that I love to describe human beings. He says that we are social solitaries,
Hmm.
meaning that we're both social beings and solitary beings
Mhm.
together simultaneously, and really need both of those aspects.
Yeah.
And so a human life without other people is
Mhm.
just not a full human life. It's part of what makes us a human being, that we are social beings,
Hmm.
but we are also simultaneously solitary beings. So we
Yeah.
also do need that alone time, that privacy. We need to have our own individualized goals. We need to
Mhm.
be our own unique selves. So I always just loved his way of combining those two things and integrating those two things and recognizing that it's both, that we're social beings and solitary beings, and we need to have both of those together.
Totally, totally. The thing comes to mind is introverts and extroverts, that term,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm like, okay, it's cool classification. You can determine where you get energy and draw your
Mm-hmm.
energy from. And I think that people sometimes can use it to label themselves and put themselves in a box and limit themselves. And I think that, hey, you can draw energy from wherever you choose. Like, what do you want to make it mean? Like, do you want to be charged up and fulfilled and rejuvenated by your experiences with other people? Or do you want to do it when you're on your own? And you can have both. Like, do you want to have both? Like, have both. I choose to be an ambivert. I choose to,
Mm-hmm.
like, just plug into the universe, and wherever I'm at, anything I'm doing, like, I get charged up. Because to be dependent on something else, to label yourself as I only get energy when I'm by myself, or I only get energy when I'm with other people, I think it's diminishing what it means to be the creator.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. And I think most people really are ambiverts. I mean, I think, it really is a spectrum.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if I know anybody who really is at what would be the ends of the spectrum. I mean, I guess a hermit would be the total introvert, but even actual hermits that we know about spend time thinking about other people. Like, even if you think about, like, I don't know, Thoreau going off to Walden Pond and spending all this time alone and in nature. But still, so much of what he was doing was writing, thinking about other people, creating writing to ultimately share with other people. So, I mean, I don't know if there really is that full hermit that never interacts with anyone. And at the other end of the spectrum, even if you are the total extroverted type, the partier, you love to be around people, you get energized by people, you still are a unique human being, and you can't just be a reflection of what everybody else wants or expects you to be. You have to find out what it is that you want, who you are, what you desire. So everybody, I feel, really does need both of these aspects, the social and the solitary.
For some reason, I got a hint to ask you about your perspective on a story, like the narrative of your life, as well as stories and in limiting beliefs or patterns and stuff like that. And just give you an opportunity to share about that. What's your perspective?
And stories are my deep passion. I told you I was an English teacher to start with, and one of the main reasons I went into that field was because I loved stories. And the truth is, I believe that creativity itself is a kind of story. It's a journey. The whole reason that my blog is A Traveler's Mind is because I want people to cultivate this idea of the journey, that the creative life is a journey. It's a story. Ideally, it's a story of transformation that ultimately, ideally, will have a happy ending.
Yep.
But the best stories are stories of transformation. So it was Aristotle famously said that a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The thing that people sometimes forget about that is what happens in the middle. That in the middle, there has to be a transformation. That's what actually makes it a story. Your story can't just be, I woke up, I had breakfast, I had lunch, I had dinner, I went to bed. That has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it's not a story. What happens in a story is that something happens in the middle of your day, so that who you are by the time you go to bed at the end of at night is different from who you were when you woke up that morning. That's what makes a real story. And that's what we all ought to be striving for. We ought to be striving for the transformation, so that we do go to bed each night a different and ideally a better person than who we were when we woke up that morning.
Yeah, I love it. And when I think of like just a non-story, the events that happen, I woke up, ate breakfast, went to work, went to sleep, right? It's like a straight line, and there's no life in that. There's no variance. There's no contrast. And I think life, the essence of life, is to experience contrast and differing viewpoints and experiences and emotions and energies from start to finish. From the time you come out the womb, you're going to be experiencing different energies and emotions. To the time you pass away, you're going to be experiencing a wide range of emotions. That's what makes for a life, is not just, okay, I come out the womb, okay, I pass away. It's like, no, it's like have an extravaganza of emotions and experiences and adventures while you're in that life.
Exactly. I totally agree.
I love it. I love it. What is a lesson that you've learned since the beginning of the year? What new perspectives, new openings, new life lessons, wisdom have you gained since the start of 2019?
Oh, since the start of this year.
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm getting lessons every single day. But I can tell you maybe the lesson that I learned today.
Yes.
So today I just had a powerful experience of connecting with a friend who needed me. And I went into our conversation with a certain agenda in mind. I had reached out to him, said, I want to talk to you about this new project that I'm starting up, and wanted to see if he was going to be interested and get involved. And what I learned even today was, even though I had this agenda, and even though he had responded and said, oh, yeah, let's chat, I want to talk with you, we got on the phone and I realized that it's just not where he was at. And I just learned this lesson of how I actually need to be there to show up and support this friend. Like, I had thought my agenda was going to be the thing that where we were going to connect, and that was going to be how we were going to move forward, and it was going to be what he needed. And then I learned today, oh wait, that actually is not what he needed. And how can I show up now today and be a better friend for you, listening to what you need and being able to be there for that specific thing you need.
Yeah. So I hear it's adaptability and versatility, that we have these incredibly powerful, soul-driving, purposeful missions and visions for our life and what we're here to do. And sometimes what we go into a conversation to accomplish may not be the highest and best good for everyone in the conversation.
Or at least maybe not at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. And so it's being aware of where people are at, and having that sensory acuity, having that emotional intelligence to connect more in the moment. And I think it's not being attached, really not being attached to expectations or outcomes, and just being ready to flow with what is.
Yeah. I love that.
Awesome.
And then learning, and every day it's sort of a new lesson of what that is. Because every time when you show up and you're present, I guess that's what I find out, that every time I show up and I'm present to see what will happen, I'm learning something new about what actually does need to happen to move forward. And it's not the thing that I thought it was yesterday when I had the agenda for what we were going to do. It was something new that's come to the table. And it was like, oh, this is where we're at, and this is what we ought to do in order to move forward.
Yeah. So good. You're starting a podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I'm super excited about this. So as you explained to everybody, it's seeing eye to eye, but the eye is the letter I, not this eye to that eye. Although I think there is something to the idea of seeing, because we definitely want to reach an audience of people who are visionaries. We want to reach visionary entrepreneurs, thought leaders, creators. And the show, though, it's eye to eye because on the one hand, the show is all about innovation and integration.
I love it.
And the major premise of the show is even what we were already talking about in our conversation, this idea that creativity and innovation, they're for everybody, and it's a skill. So that's a major premise of our show, and what we want to help people do, help people with the skill of innovation and creativity. And one of the key ways to do that is to master the skill of integration. And I think integration really comes at two levels. So on the one hand, if you learn skills in integration, it helps you to be more creative and innovative. And then once you've had a creative, innovative insight, what you need to do to make it successful is to integrate it into everything else you know and the purpose that you're setting out to achieve in life. So kind of exploring the spiral of innovation and integration is what we plan to do for the show. So we're hoping to get it launched hopefully in May or June. We just recorded the first couple episodes. We want to get a couple of them under our belt, and then we're going to be so excited to spread it to the world. And
you're doing this with a co-host?
Yes.
Awesome.
My friend, his name is Ash Ryan. So the two of us, look out for us in about a month or two.
What made you just to decide to do it with a co-host versus on your own?
Well, honestly, I have to give him credit. It was his idea.
Ah,
He was the one who had the idea to do the podcast. He and I have been friends for, oh God, since over 10 years now, a
wow.
long time. We actually met through an online philosophy course
Hmm.
and realized that interestingly, we do see eye to eye, but in the sense of the other eye to eye, the my eye, my personal self to his self.
Hmm.
So just realizing that we each have our own perspectives, but we can kind of come from each of our own unique perspectives and see eye to eye. And we've just been having conversations. We both kind of realized we had this similar passion and belief about innovation and creativity, that not enough people are
Hmm.
innovative and creative, and that this is a skill set that everybody in the world should be learning.
Mhm.
So we've just been having those conversations for years. And he approached me a couple months ago and said he had this idea of maybe starting up a podcast, and would I be interested in being the co-host? And I was super excited to jump on board.
I love it. What do you see as possible with the podcast?
Oh, I mean, hopefully a lot of things. I mean, one of the main things we'd love to do is start to create a community of other
Yeah.
people who are passionate about innovation and creativity, so we can really start a conversation and a dialogue about that.
Hmm.
I mean, as I said, one of the main messages I want to spread to the world is this idea that innovation and creativity is a skill set to be learned. So
Yep.
hopefully the podcast is a launching pad for that.
Hmm.
Hopefully it starts to get that message out there to the world in a bigger way, starts to spread some of those skills, starts to help people identify as creators, and then, as I said, start to create a community around that, a community of creators who can start sharing ideas, bouncing ideas off of one another, finding ways to collaborate, finding ways to take their creative ideas and bring them to life in reality. So I see big visions for what could happen.
That's awesome. And then the community, I know that's a really powerful way to ignite and catalyze creativity. Tell us a little bit more about how community has benefited your life and how it's improved your creativity or what your vision is. I know you touched on it a little bit just now, but I want to dive into that a little bit more.
I mean, honestly, the truth is my best creative work has
Mhm.
always been in collaboration with others. I've told you I've been a writer, and a lot of times people think of writing as a very solitary pursuit. But even my writing, I do best when I work with an editor, when I work with a proofreader, when I start to get feedback from readers. That's what actually starts to make my writing better and more powerful. I mean, as a coach, coaching is all about working with other people.
Yeah.
I grow as a coach by working with others, by learning from others. And then ideally, what I'm doing as a coach is helping somebody else to take their skills and their gifts and bring them out into the world. And then, just even as an entrepreneur, it's been the most powerful thing for me to collaborate with other entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
to because we all each have different skills, different strengths. And so when we can come together, when we can have conversations, dialogue, and when we can each contribute something, that's what actually I find makes a vision come to life and be more powerful than it ever could be if it's just one person sitting by themselves at a computer, let's say.
That's right. That's right. So, Joya, what challenges might someone be facing if they're thinking about working with you? Like someone who you typically work with, what challenges are they facing and what kind of results would they expect from working with you?
So, as I said, a lot of the challenges they're facing go back to what we were talking about before with overwhelm,
Mhm.
burnout, analysis paralysis. Those are a lot of the common struggles that people have when they come to me.
Mhm.
And when we start working together, it's breaking through the creative blocks, those obstacles that have gotten in their way of achieving their full potential. And when we start working together, it's all about uncovering their deepest motivations, asking the
Mhm.
why under the why of their purposes so that they get this more expansive sense of their purpose. And then being able to put together the strategy to accomplish it and learning about the skills and the habits. A lot of times it is even daily high performance habits that people need to start cultivating so that they're able to achieve the purpose that they've set out.
Good. This is so good. And I know that there's people in the audience who want to take those next steps with you, who want to learn more about the podcast, the work that you're doing, and how they can be supported by you through coaching, through staying connected with your content. How do they do that, Joia?
Yeah, I think you told everybody about my website. That really is the primary place to go, atravelersmind.com. It's got my personal blog, but it's got the links to everything else. So that's the hub. That's the place to go.
Awesome. I love it. And then when the podcast comes out, it'll be called what again?
The podcast is Seeing Eye to Eye.
Beautiful.
But not this eye to that eye. Letter I to other letter I. Innovation and integration.
Seeing eye to eye. I love it. Well, Joia, thank you so much for being here, sharing your love, your joy, and creativity with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I can just tell like the curiosity and play that you bring to your clients, as well as the serious high performance habits, getting that stuff done. Like I just see you really versatilely showing up and kicking butt and igniting people into their greatest possible self. Really appreciate you being here.
No, thank you. It's been such an honor for me to be with you, to have this conversation. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Keep doing the great work you're doing, and we'll see you soon, okay?
You too.
Awesome.
Thank you.